Thank you again. Part 2 of this video. If you missed part 1, please go back and look at it. We looked at the mouth, put it in plants, animals. Of course, we did say we put in also rubber and plastic, but it's not a conscious decision. We understand that, but we do put in rubber and plastic. And of course, you have to understand, once you put in rubber and plastic in your stomach, they too have to be digested. The stomach, having its natural design of being acidic, are very pH 1 and 2, very acidic, would also allow for the proper digestion of the plastics that we are eating every day, and that would help in breaking down the plastics and making them into proper molecules, whatever molecules that these plastics would provide lower down. Now this whole video, number 1 was on the acidic stomach, the importance of acidic stomach for amino acids, exposure of fatty acids for later lipid digestion, and also the proper extraction or cleaving of the vitamin B12, the critical vitamin that is used to make your red blood. Without the blood, the people shall, what. Now, when these things dump out through the duodenum somewhere around here, that is when you have the meat or whatever, the meat by itself, that's the protocol, the meat by itself in the evening, spends 4-5 hours in the acidic stomach, gets well digested with pepsin doing its work there, cutting down the polypeptides into dipeptides and tripeptides and even some amino acids, and things like intrinsic factor, another enzyme getting pulling out all this B12. They then come down to the duodenum where this bile releases into a back channel here. I am not showing it, but bile comes down here, and that is because there are fatty acids which make a hormone to tell bile, once we open here the pyloric splinter, we want you to support the digestive process of the protein, the protein and the fatty acid. So bile gets this signal and CCK squeezes the gallbladder, bam, it comes down here and does some of the explosive work, which is called digestion at the duodenum. The duodenum is thick and rugged, just thick and rugged, cannot be burned by the acid because it's made to take the acid. But when the bile comes and wets the food in that opening here called the splinter of Oddi, then you have the food now becoming, well, when I say food, I mean the so-called chyme or the polypeptides now really becoming ready in its state of, literally it has some what we call amino acids, fatty acids, and many fatty acids. We're not speaking about fats now, we're speaking about fatty acids, vitamins and minerals being in a proper state ready for absorption. Now remember, with the bile you have pancreatic juices, and all these processes are trying to target very early absorption. Very early absorption. This is about 20 feet small intestine, but we're looking at the first 5 feet for these things to be well exposed for absorption. So the process up here for animal meat is critical to understand. This is where animal meat takes place in the digestion, and this is why it's important to understand fatty acids, amino acids and minerals. It's critical to understand it from the stomach, the acidic stomach. So things are absorbed here, goes through these little pullers there, from the villi into these little veins, goes up to this portal vein, that's the red one here, up to the portal vein. You see this arrow pointing to the liver, goes to the liver, where the liver starts determining what is necessary to put into the blood, which is called the copper pipes, the blood vessels, the copper pipes. So the liver decides, okay, this guy could stay. So let's say you eat some plants, in this case you eat plants, you drank tea or whatever, you had bread, lots of glucose, they don't stay here, they run down here quickly, they digest right here. Lots of glucose molecules, a few grains of fructose come from the tea because they put sucrose in it. So you have fructose and glucose coming here. Now something like fructose does not leave, does not get to the liver, does not say yo, go into the blood. No, glucose go into the blood, fine, go into the blood, and you and insulin would have your discussion. But fructose, I would hang on to you and change you into a form, whether I store you as fat, which would be my first choice. Liver would say fat is my goal, so the liver would store him as fat, and then we would let glucose go there. Amino acids gets whatever it has to be, I think stamp of approval to go into the blood, whatever demands that is needed for the amino acids and the fatty acids, and then they get into the blood. Not all fatty acids make it to the liver, some gets absorbed down the colon, but we're not looking at that. That's things like the important ones like butyrate for the colon cells itself, so they don't need to go up and then come back down, so they get absorbed directly by the colonic cell there. That's a different discussion. What we are looking at is the liver making the determination, hey, this is something I would keep and metabolize. I would keep like fructose and metabolize it. Glucose, anybody could use glucose, so let's send it across the road to the blood. What is this thing? Oh, mercury. Okay, nobody needs this at this quantity in the body, so let me throw it out into the bile. Oh, what is this? Piece of plastic. Okay, well, I could use some of this molecule, so it used piece of the molecule, but the rest it says let me throw it into the bile. So that's how that whole storyline goes with the liver determining what is not. Of course, I'm just saying that in the very simplistic manner. This could never be explained by man because it's a designer that designed this. However, all that the liver is doing, the liver itself is saying, I need nutrients to make a determination. So without nutrients, you are actually putting the liver in a state where it says, I'm tired, I can determine that, man. Go into the blood. So like a guy on the determination line to put what's supposed to go in the box, or the quality control stand in a manufacturing plant. If this guy gets fed up and he's weak because he didn't sleep, he doesn't have the energy, he would just pack everything in the box, not looking at what is filled, what is not filled. That happens to the liver when we don't get the right nutrients in our body. The liver itself runs out of nutrients, and we critically put ourselves in issues where we would have the liver just making things go into the blood that should not go to the blood. Literally anything to the blood in the blood means we are sending to the copper pipes to go to the organs and tissues. Nothing goes really for the organs and tissues, it's really going for the cells. Nothing really is going for the cells, it's going towards the mitochondria. So ultimately the liver is protecting the mitochondria. That's really what the liver is doing, trying to get a clean blood flow into the copper pipes, right? That's why we say the liver is actually the water treatment plant, because it's treating the water for the residents inside the homes. This is the homes here called the cells. They have 500 plus residents called mitochondria. These are the people, and these people want clean water. But when you don't treat your water treatment company proper, they get fed up and they allow all kind of things to flow through the blood, which of course eventually ends up in our pipes at home and eventually into our bodies, which is the mitochondria bodies. And that's why we say mitochondria health is like the ultimate, because if they get crap nutrients, they become crap performers. And so the liver here plays this very important role. So the question is, what makes it into the liver? Those things that come from the small intestine, major. And if you have things like what is called SIBO and those things, it is caused because you have too much of glucose sitting into your stomach, into this part, the small intestine, because they would pass through here, because naturally carbohydrates causes your stomach to lose its acidity powers. So carbohydrates diet causes your stomach to lose its acidity powers, and that is why we don't mix our meat and our carbohydrates. That is why you give your meat, if you eat your meat according to Moses, in the evening you are trying to fool your belly with your meat, your eggs, your fish, whatever it is, your ruminant animals, you are trying to put 14 to 16 hours for proper digestion of your meat. 4 to 8 of the hours could even be just in your stomach. If you do not do that, then you are taking plants, animals, and remember, it's always plants and animals. Name something, it's always plants and animals. Of course, as I said, there is synthetic, but it's always plants and animals. If you leave your stomach in that state where you mix your food, plants and animals, you are naturally having a tug of war. One is pulling out quickly, which is the plants, and one is praying to stay inside. But the pull effect always wins, because once the pyloric splinters open, it will dump a bolus of food down into the small intestine. And it does not determine that by saying, okay, let me separate the sheep from the goat. No, it cannot do that. You as a human is the one to separate the sheep from the goat, meaning the plants from the animal. And therefore, when you consume your plant, you have to be thinking, I'm consuming plant for glucose, and that could be okay in the day, in the morning when you are active. According to Moses, eat that when you are active. And when you are going into the state of inactivity, meaning in the evening when you finish your day of activity, you go towards having your meat by itself, because you understand the principle that the meat has to stay here for a period of time. And what supports it staying here? Stomach acidity. What does not support it? The same plants. And so you cycle that into you see from 3-4 you eat your meat by itself, you full your stomach, make sure you feel very full. You count what, 1 2 3 4 hours. In about 4 hours time at least, you might have, if you have good stomach acidity. If your stomach acid is weak, 5-6 hours. You may even have to throw in a supplement to help yourself, but that would ultimately restore the hormonal balance gradually within months, and that brings now the nutrients that is extracted from your animal products here. Now, if you are a plant-based eater or a vegetarian, you are at risk, and that is why the word supplement comes into play, knowing the key supplements such as the B12, which is critical. You might take B12 supplement. If you're taking the oral B12 supplement, you are still putting yourself at risk, because the oral B12 supplement is to be digested just as a piece of meat, meaning you have to wake up intrinsic factor, and it does not wake up on a carbohydrate based stomach, it wakes up on a meat based stomach. So you have to mimic that environment. Therefore, it is important to understand, if you are looking at B12 supplementation as a vegetarian, you would have to look for the B12 shots to get it directly into your blood, or you would have to look for a B12 that is already methylated and maybe sublingual under your tongue, that goes directly into your bloodstream there. Thank you for viewing. This is part 2. We will see you in part 3, where we look at the blood supply system from the liver.